Ellen is a monstrous DPS and the first limited character for Zenless Zone Zero's launch. As a fighting game player, I had to do it for the one time, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's easy to see why so many of us consider Ellen the strongest DPS currently in the game, but what's more surprising to me is people are saying this without fully understanding how to play her. I mean, most of you are still doing this. In today's video, I'm going to show you how destructive her playstyle is, what kind of damage potential she has, and most importantly, how to access that damage potential on your own. Of course, I'll go over the typical stuff such as best weapons, disk drives, teams, and Mindscape. So if you want to understand exactly what you're doing with Ellen, this video is for you. And without further ado, first up, I want to break down Ellen's kit and how her damage works. I'm sure it seems simple to most, but surprisingly, that's not what the survey says. Everything Ellen wants to do revolves around this: scissor stacks. Over 70% of her damage is locked behind this meter managed mechanic. If you suck at this, you will never see Ellen's true potential. But building stacks is incredibly easy once you learn when, how, and what you gain stacks from. Your most important and quickest way to gain scissor stacks will be from the roaming states, or the hunt if your game's in Japanese. Ellen's hunt state gives her a slightly increased running speed, fake iframes, access to a new move, and the ability to gain stacks. A single strike grants you 1 stack of flash freeze, while a fully charged strike provides 3. I'll explain this in a later segment, but you don't always need to shoot for a fully charged scissor strike. Once you start to fully understand Ellen's game plan, you will eventually become more comfortable recognizing when you can capitalize on a single stack or fully charged strike. And yeah, this is without M1 Ascendant. With those previously mentioned flash freezes, Ellen gains access to over 70% damage that I mentioned earlier through the use of her enhanced basic attacks. Her moveset is relatively the same, except for basic attack 3, which gives you a fully invulnerable dive from front to back. Now, this doesn't mean that you should never use her unenhanced basic attacks. I mean, there are some minute situations where you'd be forced or want to use a basic attack, most of the time being cancel opportunities to gain a stack, juggling properties, or you managed your meter poorly. After that, you have her special attack, tail swipe, and funnily enough, you want to learn how to weave this into your standard BNBs. BNB equaling bread and butter combo, that literally is something from fighting games. I don't want you guys to think that I'm doing the meme, because like, I'm serious right now. The normal special move is a great way to instantly trigger her core passive's additional ability, Rising Storm, and 3% is small. Come on, guys, like that's not really that small, right? 3%, like that's pretty big. And you know, 3% times 10 equals 30%. So use it when you need it. EX Tail Swipe uses 40 energy, which you can build with the BNB that I'm going to show you in just a little bit. This gives you 1 flash freeze charge after hitting an enemy and shortcuts your basic attack string so you can immediately follow up her EX special with a basic attack 3. Lastly is the follow-up attack, Shark Nami. This holds all the same properties as the previous move, but with a 4 ton of extra damage. She even yells this out like a Super Sentai special move. Ellen's also fully invulnerable when using both versions of her EX. Now, since this is a beginner's guide, I'll keep this part out of the video to not overwhelm you guys, but using the fact her EX special gives you a flash freeze and it also shortcuts to basic attack 3, you essentially have an infinite amount of flash freezes until you run out of EX meter. So now that I've gone over the basics of her kit, let me break down a stronger way to maximize Ellen's potential. Once you understand that the basic principle behind her kit is to obtain and control the amount of flash freezes Ellen has at any given time, that's when you can start messing around with player expression and how you want to play the agent. Agent, character, unit, it doesn't matter what you call it. A big part of what makes Ellen is the infinite dodge counters and quick damage she has access to. Most of your focus should be on a hit and run playstyle until you set yourself up to dish out a stronger combo. Instead of using parry every time you see a golden flash, consider the fact that you may or may not have energy or flash freezes beforehand. The reason I say this is because there are times when you should be setting yourself up for the big burst combo and then getting maximum damage from said big dick damage combo. It sucks when you stun a boss but have no energy, decibel, or flash freezes to truly capitalize on that moment. If you're not familiar with dash cancels or any cancel for that matter, I suggest you start practicing now. Ellen's basic 2 is the perfect move to dash cancel out of, leading in the roaming state around frame 3 or so, and setting up a switch cancel for your teammate. In order to gain a full stack of flash freeze or scissor stacks, Ellen needs to hold the attack for about 2.5-ish seconds, which is kind of long when you're in the middle of an action game. But one of the ways that I've found to reduce the lingering effect of this move is to just switch tech out of it. If you hold the charge input for about 1.5 seconds or until you see the big glint, you can switch tech here into another unit and begin their combos, set play, or to initiate either defensive mechanic. Meanwhile, Ellen will still complete the fully charged scissor strike, resulting in 3 flash freezes without needing to be as vulnerable on the field. Your second most common way will be gaining the quick charge status, which is a short 5-second buff unique to Ellen. This turns that almost 3-second charge time into about half a second, and thankfully, if you play Ellen the way she wants to be played, you'll always be full on stacks because of this. Quick assist and perfect dodge are your best friend. Each of these give Ellen the quick charge state for about 5 seconds, and once you get comfortable doing this, you'll be using it a lot more. And you guys remember that term negative edge that I used for Wuthering Waves? Okay, well, Zenless technically has that too, although you don't use it in the same way. Now, I've been testing some things, but Rihu actually discovered that if you quick assist or counter dodge off of Ellen, you can actually hold left or right, whatever direction you want, and she will instantly go into roaming state without you having to do the attack. If you do it this way, you can immediately cancel that into the hold attack, which means you're guaranteed to get that 0.5 second 3 full charge almost instantly. Practicing the cancel timing for this basically makes it so that you can initiate when and how you control your meter, and you're always fully stacked. So now you never really have an excuse to keep mashing regular attacks unless you're bad. A standard B&B that you can fool around with is something like this. And that combo results in a guaranteed daze on basic enemies, 3 flash freezes, 1 EX bar, and an immediate chain attack to start cycling your buffs from the support. Using Rena as an example, this B&B wipes out any mob, plus CCs whatever is left over for Rena to baton pass a quick assist into Ellen, which now technically counts as your first quick charge and EX skill right off the bat. Once you hit stages focusing on the big boss, you'll want to pay attention to what kind of elite it is. Some elites only give you 2 chain attacks while the others give you 3. Regardless of how you land it, your burst combo is probably the easiest thing in the world. Chain attack, ult, EX skill, basic attack 3, EX skill 2, basic attack 3, dash attack cancel, heavy scissor strike, switch tech. I know that probably sounds like a lot, but you can see me doing it on screen as well as the button inputs to do that. And that doesn't matter if you're on controller or keyboard, you just have to know where your buttons are. Get familiar with these 2 combos and when you should be doing them. Then eventually you'll start messing around with stuff that is still practical, but just looks really cool to do. Because I know most of you guys are free to play, I rarely find it useful for me to go over the copies of a character, not because they're bad, but because most of you won't get beyond an M2 on purpose in the first place. And it is for that reason alone, I'm only gonna break down how these give mild changes to the character's damage, but drastically change her overall access to that damage. And if you haven't caught on by now, most of what I'm talking about here, at least in Zenless, is the access to set damage, because surprise, surprise, nothing is guaranteed in this game unless you earn it. M1 turns her Arctic Ambush from gaining 1 stack to 3 stacks, and from 3 stacks to 6 stacks, thus opening the window for new combos to be created, thanks to the fact that you're gaining everything you need from an immediate dash attack. She also gains up to 12% crit rate just for using flash freezes, which is basically permanent at this point because you're doing that anyway. Mind you, all of this is at a base charge level. Imagine how fast you can gain 6 stacks from the quick charge status. M2 is something purely for sauce. Remember that shortcut where EX tail swipe allows you to immediately follow up with a basic attack 3? Well, now M2 creates an actual combo chain going from EX tail swipe to basic attack 3 in the Shark Nami, then you repeat the process until you run out of meter. The cool thing about this is normally EX Special 2 Shark Nami takes up 80 to 120 meter, which means you probably will never get that back to back to back, but doing it this way now allows you to still get out 3 of them instead of just 1. Shark Nami is her most powerful attack, and now the fact that she gains up to 60% raw crit damage on top of M1's crit rate, Yeah, M2 Ellen has the highest raw crit values in the game before any gear comes into play. You honestly don't need either of these, but I absolutely want M2. With the largest chunk of the guide out of the way, let's run down her preferred gear before we get into the best teams. First up, W engines. While most of us are used to what brings the most damage or boosted stats, I strongly believe Zenless Zone Zero's gear system is way closer to Honkai Impact Thirds, and for that, which W engine you choose can completely change how you play the character, or rather, what you're able to do in the first place. Kicking things off, Deep Sea Visitor is Ellen's signature weapon, and of course, that's her best. Netting an over 20% damage difference between most other weapons, Deep Sea grants a free crit rate up to almost 50% and 25% ice damage unconditional, by the way. And you get all of this just for playing the character correctly? I'm honestly surprised they didn't attach a new move to this thing. The Brimstone is her next best option as a standard S-rank weapon, and that part is important, S-rank. While it offers a huge attack and mega attack percent buff to the wearer, the buffs themselves are completely dependent on ramping up a bunch of basic attacks. That makes the buffs a little too conditional, because now you'll have too many situations where you'll have a burst combo available, but need to waste time spamming basic attacks before doing any higher damaging combos. Someone who's like a master at switch tech could possibly circumvent this with amazing execution, but again, too conditional. Lastly, we have Starlight Engine, which is going to be the light cone that I recommend, being completely free to play and an overall solid option for attack agents in general. Why did I say light cone, bro? That was my Star Rail brain. I meant W engine. Starlight Engine comes with a 25% unconditional attack percent buff, and once you reach S5, you'll get an additional 19% on top of that. The 19% is conditional though, forcing you to trigger a dodge counter or quick assist every 12 seconds. In Ellen's case, this isn't the worst thing in the world, and I actually believe it's better universally compared to the Brimstone. None of these conditions will ever be fulfilled if you're just face rolling the keyboard. Now, I'm lazy and strongly dislike math, so all of these numbers are from Pridewind and not me. I can do it, but do I want to? Absolutely the fuck. Rolling into the disk drive section, I believe my take on this is a little nuanced. While I do believe that there's a clear best disk drive when it comes to damage or stat boost, I also believe that there is so much freeform style in this current version of the game that the disk drives just slightly alter what you want to do. Now, I love the 4-piece woodpecker on my Ellen, but some of my homies love 4-piece polar metal. This game is centered around optimizing when and how you do your combos, and way less about what most players are confusing a rotation to be. Each disk drive has its own benefits and dictates what you value more from Ellen. Woodpecker Electro is the overall best one, giving you the most universal damage due to the fact a well-built Ellen will almost always crit. Polar Metal could be next due to the fact that over 70% of your damage derives from basic attacks, but then Puffer Electro basically holds the same value when it comes to your burst damage specifically. So it's kind of a coin toss in the air on which one you just happen to have the better stats for, or which one you prefer playing. If you're more of a mashing type player, then Puffer Electro might be for you because you're gonna mash your way into a burst combo. But if you're a little more calculated and you're not really worried about all that, then you could get away with Polar Metal. At the end of the day, it really just comes down to which one you have the best set for, and then you just slap it on your Ellen. She's so strong, she's gonna do whatever she wants, when she wants, how she wants. Regarding the 2-piece drive option, I'd say it's dealer's choice of any of these, as they have great 2-piece bonuses, but Hormone Punk is another great option for the 10% attack. To keep it short and simple, your desired main stats will be crit rate or damage on the 4th disc, whichever you need to make up for, ice damage or attack percent on disc 5, but pin ratio could work here depending on if you have better substats for it or not. And lastly, attack percent on disc 6. The order of the drive is counterclockwise, by the way. And finally, at the end of the guide, we can smash out the best teams for Ellen. Realistically, this is broken down into 2 major archetypes though, free to play and not free to play. As of right now, the mass populace agrees that the Mono Ice team is Ellen's strongest team, and it's really hard to argue against it. From a partner standpoint, Lycan is without a shadow of a doubt her best friend. He's the best stunner in the game. He has an amazing combination of slow and fast attacks, great launchers, 25% ice shred, fast freeze combos, and he's the only character in the game to increase the days multiplier up by 35%. The two of them separately already have some of the most powerful passive abilities in the game, but making those abilities mutually resonate is just absolutely ridiculous. Their synergy at this current point in time is unmatched, and it's honestly because of these two alone that your choice of a third character is a lot more open. The Mono Ice team rounds it off with Sokaku, who is an amazing partner for the team at M1, but a way better support unit in M6. She offers the team an impressive flat attack buff upwards of about 1000 that, if you set it up correctly, could easily take Ellen from 3k to 4k. She boosts the entire team's damage even further with a 20% ice damage buff and racks up the freeze anomaly even faster than Lycan. I haven't even mentioned all of the different switch tech each of them grants each other. So with this, there's no wonder why it's being recognized as the best. But I still believe, personally speaking by the way, Rina is the best option in this slot. Rina's kit is impressive by itself, establishing around 70% pin ratio for the entire team to benefit from, ridiculous shock anomaly potential, quick assist opportunities, one of the only long range characters in the game, decent crowd control, and access to the super powerful disorder reaction. At first, I thought keeping all this stuff up was going to be pretty difficult, but after playing the team for about a week, it's practically the easiest thing in the world to do. You literally just switch tech a lot. Now, the free-to-play team holds the same concept, but you're replacing Lycan with Anby. I say Anby because Coleta could be used, but that puts them in the same position as Lycan. You either have her or you don't. With Anby, this still allows you to keep certain things from the premium team, like easy launchers, disorder, quick days build up, quick assist opportunities, and the fact that she's free means you're more than likely going to get some extra copies of her instead of an S rank. Then being free to play, Sokaku obviously makes the best choice here. Regardless of what team you build, one of these doesn't outright stomp on the other. If we're looking at this from a purely DPS perspective, then one of them clears in 59 seconds while the other clears in 61. It's honestly not worth stressing over, dude. Pick whatever you want. After all that is said and done, Ellen is an amazing character and easily one of my favorites in the game. Her playstyle promotes a good mix of strong and fast attacks, dash cancels, switch tech, and constantly looking for new ways to combo from a teammate or herself. If you've been questioning whether or not Ellen is worth it to you, I'd say go for it, but don't let me be the determining factor for your account. Zenless is just barely breathing, and we've already seen some incredible looking characters coming in the next couple of months. If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content. I'm aiming for 20k by the end of the month just to see if I can do it. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Once again, smell you later.